joined by Annabelle Wallis, who stars in the upcoming Christmas horror film Silent Night. Yay! Hey, thanks for coming to chat with us.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm excited.
So, Silent Night is an apocalyptic Christmas horror movie. A group of friends gets together to spend their last night and their last Christmas together. So, my obvious first question here is which is a better Christmas song, Silent Night or Wham's Last Christmas?
Wham's Last Christmas.
There you go. That is the correct answer.
I drive a Christmas party.
Fantastic. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, we can continue with this. That was like my number
I'm allowed
one
in now.
pressing business. So what drew you to this story, this character, this script?
Um, Camille Griffith, our director, she wrote an incredible script with these incredible characters, and it was ballsy and brave and emotional and funny, and then saying something about, these very important themes in the world. And I was just in. Yeah, and then, oh yes, and of course, Kira was already attached. And so then I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, sold.
I thought, I'm in. What?
Amazing. I kind of love this juxtaposition of like Love Actually is like a staple in my home for a Christmas movie,
Yeah.
And so now this is like a nice companion piece to that.
Yes. Well, Kira said it best. She said it's like Richard Curtis and Lars von Trier had a baby.
There you go.
And when I say that to people, they're like, mm.
And you're like, just trust me on this. Just go with it.
Okay,
Yeah,
just
just
go
go
with
with it. You're gonna enjoy it.
Yes.
Um, this is a fantastic ensemble cast. I was very surprised. It's a dark concept. Like when you tell somebody the concept of this movie, you're like, God, that's very dark, and that doesn't seem
Yeah.
Christmassy at all. But it does it in a way that's never bleak. Like you said, it comes across all these different kinds of themes, but not in a way that's bleak or makes you feel like yucky or terrible. And
Mhm.
I was surprised at how much I laughed during this movie. Like I was laughing my ass off.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. I mean, not at the terrible parts, obviously, but
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
the relationship between the friends, it all feels very relatable and the way that they talk to each other and like it's all very distinct characters. Did you have fun with that?
Oh, so much fun. Camille, she was really good at just writing people as they are, and she wasn't trying to, sugarcoat very complex human dynamics that are, funny to watch.
Hmm.
And you pretend you didn't laugh, but you do, and so whatever, the, what it evoked in me as a reader, I was like, wow, I'm sure an audience would just thrive off this, because
Hmm.
it makes you ask like uncomfortable questions about yourself,
Right.
and there's a through line to all of us in all of those characters. And yeah, it was just so much fun to play. She was like, go for it, just
Yeah.
go for it.
And there's a lot of those like some of those funny moments come from very awkward, very honest kinds of things where it's like it's very cringy, you know what I
Yes.
mean? Like yeah. But the benefit of watching as an audience member is like I get to laugh at that. But if I was sitting in the room, it would be deeply uncomfortable and
Yes.
it's one that you have to like pretend that you're not laughing because your friends would be like, "Why are you laughing at this?"
Yeah, and there's such bravery to handle, difficult subject matter and important, themes in life with humor,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
it really, it helps people not only emote with what you're saying, and like they have an expression, but then they question why they laughed and where the laughter came from, and they question themselves. So therefore they're immediately connected in a different way. And it's brave, I think
Hmm.
in an age where we are, oh, like it's very hard, especially the cancel culture to get away with much. I just to be in a film that was like, these are humans. We're going to be human. We
Hmm.
all, have our moments, and we're going to celebrate that, and we're going to say important things with the awkwardness of humanity.
Right. I love the awkwardness of humanity. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of awkward though, you know what I mean?
I
Because to me that's real. That's genuine.
I'm awkward. I am a very awkward person. So I was very happy. I was like, great, this is me. I'm like faux pas city over here.
I love that you say you're awkward, and I'm like, you're like the epitome of cool. What are you talking about?
No, 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 no.
You're
Like I'm
so
like
cool.
I like they're like, oh, I'm like a fumbling Hugh Grant, the exterior of like someone else. I don't know who that person is, but inside it's like deeply awkward Hugh Grant.
Wait, okay, maybe I'm biased because I love that. To me, I'm like, well, that's just charming. I don't know what you mean. I'm,
Okay, great. I'll
yeah,
roll with that.
yeah.
Oh, great. That's
Charming as hell.
charming.
I love that. It kind of gives I'm a fan of stuff like this because it gives you perspective. It's like
Mhm.
existential horror,
Mhm.
so it's got this like even though there's all this humor and there's fun times and it's like, oh, that's what it's like to be with your friends, especially friends you've known forever or haven't seen in a long time. But there's that underlying like existential dread in there as well, which I'm just such a fan of because it makes you think about things in a different way and you just get this perspective of like what's important and what's maybe not so
Yeah.
important. Yeah.
Yeah. And also when you've participated in that impending doom,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
what does that like that eerie, that deep upset that you were part of it. I found the conversations with the kids where these parents are a part of a generation that didn't look after or take accountability for the way, and you have to explain to your child, well, what happened to the world. I mean, it's funny in the delivery, but you're like, oh my god, like that's what we're walking toward.
Mhm.
It is mirroring a world that we live
Right.
in a heightened way, but it could very well be real. So yeah, I think that was the scariest element for me.
Yeah, it wasn't nearly far-fetched enough to seem like an impossible fantasy kind of thing, so that weaves itself into the fear as well, because you're like, well, that's not far-fetched in the least.
No, I mean, because we just have been through a pandemic, and like
Mhm.
there has been, the horrors of that, and we were shooting as the world was closing down, and I was like, oh my God, this is actually happening. We didn't know that we were gonna come out of it. The
Mhm.
world hadn't fully locked down yet. So as we were shooting, there was a real element of like what is about to happen on this earth with this virus that's so I think the parallels of the performances and the energy was mirroring what was really going on. Yeah.
That had to be so weird. I mean, it was weird watching it knowing, COVID exists and this is our world, but like at that time of it, there was so many more questions than answers, and then having this script, I'm like, oh, that must have been so weird.
It was so weird, and there was the British government saying that they were going to lock down and in so many days, and so this idea of living the moment, like,
Right.
oh, when am I going to work again? I'm going to do the scene like this,
Yeah.
like, let's have real champagne on set, like I'll never get here again. So, yeah, it's created a completely different energy. It was real life.
Yeah.
We were shooting something that was happening around us. So,
Energy lends itself to the movie, Last Christmas. Is this the last movie I'm gonna make?
yeah,
How long is it gonna be till I do another? So there you go. Oh no.
yeah.
But thankfully it is not the last movie and there are many more to come.
No,
So
yes, thank
grateful for that. Yay. Okay. Last question. What is your favorite Christmas movie, or even better yet, do you have a favorite Christmas horror movie?
I like Home Alone.
Okay.
That is my ultimate favorite. I don't care what anyone says. It's genius. It's my favorite film. God, Christmas horror. Ooh, anything Tim Burton.
Nice.
Like, yeah, anything Tim Burton. I always like with the fire going, and you watch like, oh my God, there's just so many great.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Those are solid answers. I love those
Yeah.
both.
I'd say that. I'd say, yeah, that.
All right, awesome. Okay, thank you so much.
Great. Thank
Silent
you.
Night, December 3rd. Check it out.
Check it out. Enjoy.
I've been thinking about this since I saw it at Fantastic Fest, which I think was in September, and I think about this movie daily. So
Oh, that's
there you
so
go.
good. It's so
Yeah.
wonderful. I really hope.
Excited for everyone to check it out.
Oh, great, great.
All
Enjoy, everyone.
right, thank you so much, Annabelle. Welcome to Convo Fango. We're getting into the holiday spirit with a dark twist, naturally, because this is Fangoria. Today we're joined by the writer and director of Silent Night, Camille Griffin. Yay!
Hey,
Thank you for coming.
hello.
Thanks for chatting with us today.
Very nice to meet you.
Wonderful to meet you. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what Silent Night is about?
Yes, I have to try not to talk too much about everything because it's about so many things. But I would say it's a parody of the Christmas comedy working title genre. We say working title in the UK because they make films like Love Actually and for weddings, and so it's a parody of the Christmas comedy genre, and it's a kind of parody of the people that occupy the genre, which is the privileged white privileged classes of the United Kingdom, which I sound very much like one of them, which I am. So it's a parody, it's a satire on myself as much as anything else.
Right. I love that even more though, you know? So I'm like, what was your inspiration for this? Are any of the characters based on people that you know, on yourself? Like,
Oh yeah, the inspiration. Looking at I was saying the other day that it's like you kind of as a filmmaker you have to put your shame on screen sometimes, your best and worst. So I don't think I'm all of those characters by any means, but I think um, I've always grown up in conflict with where I'm from and the class system that I was brought up in. So the inspiration is looking at the best and worst of the privileged classes and examining relationship with parenting and our values and society. And so I'm trying to talk about big things, but I'm trying to make it entertaining because I don't know what your world is like, but I sometimes get invited to parties and they're like, can't you just chill out and talk about something like, can't you just talk about, Stranger Things instead of, or hair and makeup instead of like politics. So I realized that to talk about things that I felt were important to talk about, I should try and make it funny.
yeah. Well, I'm going to start inviting you to parties because I go to parties and talk about Stranger Things and horror movies, so we can hang out.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Okay, that's great.
When
Thank
you need a
you.
break from that stuff, you know, you can come hang
Yeah,
out at one of my
okay.
parties.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love that you say that you kind of like you grew up within that world and this is kind and you've kind of struggled with that. So then I feel like is it's kind of like a way of like exercising your demons, so to speak, by getting them on the page and onto the screen.
I think it's 100% about exercising your demons. And I
Hmm.
think it's taken me in a way, I've been trying for many years to make a film, but I think it's taken me this long to kind of find my voice.
Hmm.
And yeah, yeah, I don't know why I feel like I've lost my thread, but yeah, 100%. Um, that was fundamental for me,
Right.
to see because I realized at a very young age as a child, I was like, how how do I trust people that make mistakes, And and the privileged classes in the United Kingdom, they're given jobs as politicians. They run the world, they run the
Hmm.
country, and yet most of them are sent to boarding school at 7 years old. And so the idea that they're a broken generation and they're broken historically, why do they get to make decisions for everyone? It
Right.
just seems so completely ludicrous. And I don't know about, well, I do know your government's made some horrific mistakes, but ours have made some dreadful mistakes. Yet no one, they get away with it. Like no one challenges it, And
Right.
um, so really that's the struggle I have. And then also as a parent, how do you Kira Knightley said it beautifully. She said that when you give birth to fear. And I think that as a parent, I was always living in a place of fear, like how do I protect my kids?
Hmm.
And there's a tsunami. I was always looking at the kind of the darker side of things, like what do I do when the world ends? How do I protect my children? Even on planes, where are we going to sit together? Where's the emergency exit? Do you know what I
Right.
mean? So I feel less anxious about that now, funnily enough, how you made the film.
Really? Okay, so definitely exercising the demons.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry to
No.
take that all out on you guys. Yeah.
No, no. I think that's so interesting though because I'm not a parent, but I always think, I mean, even just being I have a nephew and just being an
There
aunt,
you
I'm like
go.
I've never loved someone more than that and like I can't even imagine amplifying that as a parent, you know? And I'm just like I'm already like, "Oh my God, no, this kid, I'm like, how do I protect you from all of these things?" And it's just like this whole world and I'm like, "Ah, it's like you're just out there and there's things
It's
everywhere." And
hard.
like how do you like that's like I can't imagine like the anxiety level and your horror must shift once you become a parent. And I always think about what that shift is and what takes place because now your number one priority is like protecting this little living entity that's moving through this dangerous world, you know? Yeah.
Well, I think you've already had that shift. Obviously, you're obviously a very good aunt, and you obviously really care. But I think it's true because I was an older sibling too. I had very young siblings, and I remember at the age of like 11, 12, like changing their nappies and feeding them. I remember thinking, this is hard, you know, but it's like a curse, like loving something vulnerable or fragile. It's a gift and it's a curse. But yes, I think it's not easy, you know, to care.
Yeah.
Caring is not always. They might say differently. They might say I don't care at all, but I know I care. But I think caring is painful at times, right?
There's a horror about caring, you know. So when you love big and you love a lot of people, it's like, ooh, these are so many opportunities to be hurt in different kinds of weird ways.
Exactly. So you understand that instantly, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, this is very existential, but the film is very existential. Like I was in there and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, it's like it's giving me perspective on things and it makes you take stock because I think like what would I want to do with my last night or my last Christmas? Like who would I want to spend it with? What's the important things? Other things fall away." So it was kind of cool in that aspect as well. Which is also a dreadful thought, you know? Like
Well, yeah, because it's like you make automatic decisions, and then sometimes you go, why did I have a party on my 30th or my 40th or whatever? Like, why didn't I just actually go and have a picnic with my kid? Or, I mean, do you know what I mean? It's like,
uh-huh.
yeah, you assume that this is always the best situation to be in, but sometimes it's maybe not. Maybe this will stop people like having reunions when they shouldn't have them. You know what I mean?
So
The automatic go-to is, isn't it, to spend it with the people you love? Yeah.
right. So the way that the characters spend their last night in this movie with their like old friends, longtime friends, is that not how you would choose to spend it?
Oh no, I love my friends. I love my friends, but I think there's that thing about having old friends.
Hmm.
You get to an age where you go, should we still be friends? But we're friends because we've been friends forever. I mean, you're younger than me, so I don't know if I mean, maybe you've already experienced that, but I know you get to a point where you go, but I really love that person, but are they good for me? Or do they really see me the way, or do they see me as I was when I was 7 years old? Or so the
Right.
idea is that they are great friends, but they're kind of stuck away. Families is sometimes stuck. Like you don't choose your parents. It's like in a way, they didn't choose each other, they were given each other from
Right.
a very young age. So I was also trying to make a comment on that. I mean, I was trying to make a comment on so many things. There's a lot to talk about in the film, but I think there's that unconditional love. It's like the Sandra character, you know, I think she's brilliant, but she's tricky.
Hmm.
When they say we tolerate you, no, you know, we tolerate you because they have love for her, but would they all be friends now if they met Sandra? No. And would Chopet's character James be friends with them? I had a scene which I sadly lost in the edit where Lily Rose says to the James character, to Chopet's character, says, I've never seen E.T. before. And he says, like, he'd be useful now with his life-saving magic finger. And she says, who would you save? And he said, well, I wouldn't save anyone. She says, not, you wouldn't save your friends? He says, no, I mean, I'd probably the kids and Nell. But you can see that for him, he's outgrown them. You know, he loves them and they have history, but he's ready to move on.
Right.
But he can't. There is no future for them. But I think that's something also that you get with age. That I know I keep talking about like I'm really old. I mean, I think I'm really old. But you get over time, you're a bit like, well, hang on, should we? Yeah.
Yeah. No, it makes total sense to me. And also, like, there's so much in here that we can never talk about in the span of a few minutes, but it's not in it. Like, this makes it sound like it's like so intensely heavy, but it's done in such a way, like, it's very masterful the way that you managed to pull this off because there's a lot crammed in there, but it doesn't feel crammed. And this movie, as funny as shit, like it was surprisingly funny, and it's dark subject matter, but it's not bleak and it's not mean, and that's really hard to do because it
Yeah,
sounds
I mean,
terribly depressing, right?
I'm so pleased you say that because I have read comments going, God, it's bleak as hell, and oh, this
Mm-mm.
is so mean. But I do think I am proud of how much love and comedy and moments of ridiculousness there is in the film because, you know, death is ridiculous, like love is ridiculous. Like we were saying earlier, like this, when you say love comes with pain, I mean, everything, you know, white and black, and sun and light, night, you know, it's like we're living in opposition every day
Right.
in nature and everything we achieve, you know, sleep and being awake. So for me, I think I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that it can do those things. The film can do those things. And I agree with you. I think it's funny. I mean, I'm always the one who
It's so
laughs at my
funny.
own jokes. I always laugh at my own jokes. So I'm so
I
pleased
mean,
you found it
same.
funny.
I love
So I'm
that.
glad you found it funny. Good.
Yeah, I was dying and I was not I went in pretty blind. I had a there was a filmmaker that said to me right before I went in, she said it's kind of like Love Actually meets The Mist. And I was like, what
Oh,
the
I read
hell is
this.
that? Did you read that? Okay,
Yeah, I
yeah.
read it on Twitter. Yeah, you
Yeah.
were very nice. Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell does that even mean? And then I was like, okay, I absolutely get it. She's 100% right. But then there's like all this, there's just like brilliant humor thrown in there too. Like this cast is fantastic. And I don't know if those jokes played as well on the page or if it didn't, if you didn't fully know that they worked until you saw them being performed. But my God, it's funny as well.
I'm so pleased. Well, it was interesting. I think, I think, I think they made everything better, the cast.
Hmm.
It was on the page. And then obviously there's some improvised moments, but I couldn't believe how they elevated the material.
Yeah.
I mean, I was so happy and so grateful to them. And I think that was what was clever about the casting. Darling, can you not talk? Sorry, guys. Sorry. We live in an open plan house. It's very hard for them because they have to be
Okay.
patient. I'm sorry. But I was really blessed. They were, I mean, they were brilliant. They were just brilliant.
And
And
they had such chemistry as well. It was just fun to
yeah,
watch. And awkward. Like the awkward moments were very fun to watch. And then there's just straight up humor. It was just all these layers of different types of humor that I really enjoyed.
yeah, it was interesting. It was like we were going on some weird journey together and they were all up for it. Like
Hmm.
I really wanted to make sure they understood what they were doing, like what the film was about. And the fact that they signed on, which I think is a courageous thing to do. I mean, Kira
Right.
particularly, she was our first actor attached, and what a brave decision for her, to
Right.
steer away from playing. She's always given these roles of being Miss Perfect, and I was like,
Hmm.
wow, that's so brave of her. She's prepared to challenge that. Um, but I think that was intrinsic in the making, was that we knew that, well, we hoped that when people said they got it, and then
Right.
I think it was it felt like a safe place to set. It felt safe for everyone to be ridiculous and crazy. And I was just like, I just loved what they could do. I was like,
Hmm.
I can't believe you did that. Okay, let's try this now. I
Yeah.
had so much fun, despite the fact the world, was gradually becoming a very unsafe and frightening place. So there was the balance of them trying to take care of everyone. But oh yeah, I was blessed really with the crew and the cast.
Yes. And it pays off and it very much comes forth on the screen. And also I do have
Great.
to say there is like this intrinsic horror about I love Actually. It's one of my favorite movies. I absolutely adore Keira Knightley. So then having you take something that is so warm and cozy and familiar to me and just like flipping the narrative and turning it into something quite dark and it feels like the rug has been pulled out from under me and it's like there's something intrinsically horrific about that because I'm like I'm conditioned to associate this with like safety and warmth and this is not what this is at all.
Well, you're the perfect audience for this film
Yeah.
because I was trying to do that, but you didn't. But it didn't anchor you, which is interesting. Because if you're like, you weren't like, why are they doing that to my favorite movie or my favorite genre? So thank you that you were happy to go on that journey because I think some people will be like, how dare she do that to the Christmas movie? How dare she upset us all? And obviously we never intended to make a film that was going to be introduced, during a pandemic. That was never intended. So obviously there's a sensitivity to an audience that need to know what they're watching before they. But
Right.
ideally, the idea is to give some trigger warnings, but without giving it away.
Yes.
But so it was, yeah. So you had a very unique experience, I think, because I think it was only really Toronto and those original film festivals where people were going in blind. So yeah.
That's always a benefit. I feel very lucky when I get to do that because I'm like that doesn't happen often and there's certain movies where I feel like that really pays off to be able to go in and be like, what am I about to oh my God, you know?
Where did you sit at Toronto?
I saw this one actually in Texas. I was at Fantastic Fest
Oh,
in
the
Austin.
Austin. Okay,
Yeah, that's where I saw
fantastic. Good. I wish I'd come. Yeah,
it.
great.
Yeah, next
Amazing.
time, please.
Well,
All
no one
right.
invited me. I wanted to
Oh my
go, but no one
goodness.
said, hey.
No
Yeah, I
way.
was like, why?
Oh.
Yeah. I
I'm
would
gonna
have
I'm
showed
gonna
up.
let
I would
them
have showed up.
know that they should invite you to the
Well,
next
maybe
one.
they did, and the distributors didn't want to pay for it. Who knows? I'm only teasing, but I have no
Ah.
idea. I have no idea. I'm only teasing, but I was like, can't you want me to go to Texas? I'd love to go. Anyway, yeah.
It's a fun
But I'm
one, I'm
very
just
excited.
saying. It's a great time.
It looked really fun. It looked
All right.
fun.
Yeah, so hopefully you'll be at the next one. I think we have to wrap
Mm.
it up. My last question for you then is what is a better Christmas song, Silent Night or Wham's Last Christmas?
Oh, I do like Wham's for Last Christmas. I mean, I do think it's amazing, Wham's. But yeah, we didn't even try and get it in there. We were like, we knew we didn't have the budget for that. But I
Yeah.
do love Sinead O'Connor's Silent Night,
Mhm.
and Birdie did our Silent Night. I don't know if you knew that it was Birdie. She
Oh,
does a
wow.
beautiful. Do you know there's she's a musician called Birdie. She did the rendition in the film of Silent Night, so I think she did a spectacular job.
Beautiful.
Um, yeah, there's a lot of great Christmas carols and songs that are just heartbreaking.
Yes, yeah, it
Yeah.
really is, right? And I think I always feel weird for feeling that way, but there are many of them.
Yeah, they're not all in the film. I wish they were more, but obviously we couldn't just drown out the whole movie. But um, there's one particular, "Oh Holy Night." That's my favorite Christmas carol.
That's
Oh,
one of my
that
favorites
gets me
as well.
every
And I
time.
just, Niagara Falls, without fail, I'm just
Uh,
done when that
yeah,
comes on.
yeah. I had it over the fireworks, and the composer was like, "Can I just compose some music to the movie?" I was like, "Oh, don't take out Oh Holy Night."
Oh
Yes,
no.
okay.
Yeah, like I'm
Yeah.
making a Christmas movie, it has to be in there.
I know. I was like, "Don't take that out, please."
Oh
Anyway,
my
yeah,
God. All
she
right.
did a
Well,
great job.
thank you so much. I could talk to you for like 2 more hours about like
Yeah,
directing
me
your
too.
son and all the themes in here. But yeah, like this was amazing. Cast
Well,
was
thank you so
amazing.
much.
Yes, thank you. All right, Silent Night, check it out. Don't I never said it was a feel-good Christmas movie. I said it's a good Christmas movie.